Let's now get started. October 2021 was a turning point in Kenya's war against the coronavirus pandemic as Mashujaa Day gift President Uhuru Kenyatta announced the easing of a number of restrictions, removing curfews, allowing churches to resume, and even opening door to the bars. The country was too fighting a double-edged sword, facing a rapid spread of the highly infectious Delta variant and trying to ration vaccine that were hard to come by. With the country trying to mop up vaccines, Omicron landed again, and we look back at the country's bumpy war against the COVID-19 pandemic. As 2021 checked in, it was a silent night devoid of fireworks, hooting and merrymaking as Kenyans welcomed the new year with renewed hope amid the COVID-19 pandemic. President Uhuru Kenyatta had in November 2020 issued tough COVID-19 containment measures that would extinguish the usual large Christmas and New Year celebrations. The president extended the national curfew to January 3rd, 2021, technically dashing hopes of many revelers who would have otherwise trooped to social joints and worship centers for merrymaking.
The nationwide curfew is extended up to the 3rd of January 2021. The curfew will now be enforced between 10 p.m. and 4 a.m. in the morning.
Although the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, FDA, had authorized Pfizer vaccine for emergency use in December 2020, followed by the Moderna vaccine, which was approved a week later, African countries were yet to benefit from the jabs until 2021, when the World Health Organization, WHO, in February listed AstraZeneca and Oxford University's COVID-19 vaccine for emergency use, widening access to the relatively inexpensive shot in the developing world. In March, Kenya received the first batch of AstraZeneca vaccine from the Serum Institute of India. The 1.02 million doses of the AstraZeneca Oxford COVID-19 vaccine arrived at Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, Nairobi, on March 3rd, 2021, as part of the COVAX facility.
We've been fighting COVID-19. We've been fighting this virus, but we have been fighting it with rubber bullets. But this time round, what we have received here is equivalent, metaphorically speaking, to acquisition of machine guns, bazookas, and tanks.
Kenya's Acting Director General of Health, Dr. Patrick Amoth, kicked off the country's COVID-19 vaccination effort by rolling up his sleeve and becoming the first person to be inoculated. To date, over 3.7 million Kenyans are fully vaccinated, while close to 9.2 million others are partially vaccinated. The vaccination exercise was first targeted at those above 58 years and public servants offering critical services like security and teachers. The decision was to allow such officers to serve Kenyans uninterrupted. Vaccination against COVID-19 seems to have worked in easing infection rate, forcing the president on October 20th during this year's Mashujaa Day celebrations to lift a nationwide curfew that had been in place since March 2020.
I hereby order and direct that the nationwide dusk to dawn curfew that has been in effect from the 27th of March 2020 be and is hereby vacated with immediate effect.
Now hospitals are experiencing yet another peak, overwhelmed with mostly unvaccinated patients. A new variant identified as Omicron has been blamed for the current surge.
We have a lot of other samples that we are sequencing. So in the next 2 days,
I will be able to confirm the spread or otherwise of the Omicron variant in the country.
The Omicron variant has deepened concerns about how much longer the coronavirus pandemic will last. To keep the economy going and avoid any further lockdowns, the government has already issued a red alert that in-person services will not be offered to those who have not taken the jab. This all as the government went all out to ensure that the curve almost coming down with a positivity rate below 1%. Things are again changing, and as of the 24th of December, the country was recording an upsurge in infection with positivity rate jumping to 32.6%. The Building Bridges initiative appeared to many as ODM leader Raila Odinga's launch pad for the 2022 general election and a plot ward off his rival Deputy President William Ruto, even though the Supreme Court is set to begin hearing a petition challenging the Court of Appeal decision nullifying the process. Raila and his close ties with President Uhuru Kenyatta appear to be keen to push through some of the proposals in the document, and as the country prepares for the upcoming general election, Raila is embracing small parties being created ahead of the general election through his Azimio la Umoja, as Deputy President William Ruto appears to be keen on strengthening the United Democratic Alliance Party.
Days to the end of year 2020, President Uhuru Kenyatta and ODM leader Raila Odinga were confident that the BBI proposals would finally be adopted through a referendum this year or early next year. This would put them in a coalition course with the country's second in command, who saw the BBI process as a plot to bury his presidential ambitions through the elevation of Raila.
Mnataka kubadilisha katiba kwa sababu mlikuwa mnataka kutengeneza rais pepari. Mtu ambaye ataenda bunge, achague wabunge, wawe mawaziri ili aweze kucontrol bunge.
But civil society organizations and other interested parties would move to court, seeking the declaration that the BBI process was illegal as it sought to usurp the constitution. May 13th, a 5-judge bench led by Professor Joel Ngugi declared the process null and void, citing the basic structure doctrine of the constitution that insulates some of the clauses in the constitution from amendment.
If there was a much more dangerous constitutional change, it is the BBI.
The court held that the BBI Secretariat and the Steering Committee failed to provide critical information to the public as outlined in the procedures to amend the constitution through a popular initiative. The court also questioning the promoters of the bill, ruling that the president cannot initiate a process to change the constitution through a popular initiative in the pretext of promoting national unity.
Neither the president nor any state organ is permitted under our constitution to initiate constitutional amendments using the popular initiative route.
What followed would be a barrage of attacks by politicians who felt that the judiciary had acted out of its powers in making the ruling. On the other hand, those opposed to the process hailed the 5-judge bench for the nullification of the process.
That what BBI is attempting to do is actually to steal your present and your future.
Government to be able to use the instruments of power to go for a popular initiative is totally against the constitution. So you cannot amend the constitution outside of the pathways provided for them. So that is the illegality number one.
Tunaridhika, tumekubali hiyo majaji, tuko right kwa sababu umetetea haki zetu. BBI sisi hatutaki.
The nullification became the launch pad of the legal battle at the Court of Appeal, as President Uhuru Kenyatta through the Attorney General and Odinga through the BBI Secretariat sought to reverse the ruling. On the 20th of August, the Court of Appeal dealt another blow to the BBI process after upholding the ruling by the High Court. In a major decision, 6 of the 7-judge bench, headed by the court's President Daniel Musinga, ruling that the BBI process was illegal and unconstitutional, but expunged part of the High Court orders, including one that said President Uhuru Kenyatta had contravened Chapter 6 of the Constitution.
The power to amend the constitution through the popular initiative route and Article 257 of the constitution is reserved for the private citizen, for Wanjiko only.
ANC respects the decision of the Court of Appeal to uphold the High Court won on the BBI matter.
When Raila issued a statement claiming his party would move on after the decision, the Attorney General and the BBI Secretariat revealed that they would launch another appeal at the Supreme Court, but the hearing has been set for January 2022. Raila has since taken a hasty retreat and supported the appeal lodged at the Apex Court. President Uhuru Kenyatta, on the other hand, has on several occasions criticized the ruling by the Court of Appeal, accusing the judiciary of usurping the rights of more than 5 million people who appended their signatures to the BBI bill.
And although it encountered some legal obstacles, I say again today that BBI is just a dream deferred. One day, someday, it will happen.
Sasa hao jamaa wameruka wamesimu kwenda pande nyingine. Tunasema sawa. Kuvunjika kwa mwiko sio mwisho wa upishi.
And as the prospects of BBI continue to deepen, politicians began to scheme ahead of the elections, not for political relevance alone, but for negotiations too. The National Super Alliance, with an uneasy relationship after the handshake, became more fragmented as Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka, ANC's Musalia Mudavadi and Ford Kenya's Moses Wetangula broke ranks with ODM leader Raila Odinga to team up with KANU's Gideon Moi to form the One Kenya Alliance. Oka insists it will fill one of their own as presidential candidate, though it's yet to reveal the criteria it will use to identify the most suitable. But Oka has one more headache. Some of its principals appear to be warming up to Raila Odinga, while others completely opposed to teaming up with him.
Hata Kiambu ni 100% William Ruto na UDA.
And while Deputy President William Ruto may be deemed to have an upper hand in the Mount Kenya region, Raila appears to be making huge gains in the region that may not produce a presidential candidate in the next election.
Nilishika mkono wa baba, tukaanza kupanda mlima, mayanga itokijeta 3 quarter. Tumebakisha kakuota tu, na wakati baba amesimama kwa mlima, mnajua baba akisimama kwa mlima, hakuna kona ota moja ya Kenya ambayo haioni.
A faction of the Mount Kenya region led by NARC Kenya's Martha Karua, CCK's Moses Kuria, and TSP's Mwangi Kiunjuri have been scheming to unite all parties in the region to push for unity and interests of the region. They have since roped in the likes of former Kiambu Governor William Kabogo with the Mount Kenya Unity Forum, maintaining that they are yet to identify a presidential candidate to support, but will engage each candidate as individual parties. The forum has rubbished calls by Deputy President William Ruto to fold up and join Oda Party.
Ni sitting MPs na leaders from Mount Kenya and leaders of political parties. Some of us had met earlier, but today the commitment is the unity of purpose of the people of Mount Kenya.
Raila, on the other hand, is courting parties in the region through the Azimio la Umoja movement. With the fault lines already clear among its top political actors in the country over BBI already visible, presidential aspirants have already framed their politics to war. Deputy President William Ruto has already picked up the bottom-up economic model, which he claims is the only solution to economic inequality in the country, promising to empower those he says are at the bottom of the economic pyramid.
Ati kwanza twende tupange kubadilisha katiba. Ati tuongeze mamlaka ya viongozi. Ati tuongeze vyeo ya viongozi. Mimi ninawaambia jameni, ngojeni kwanza tupange ajira ya hawa vijana.
Raila Odinga, on the other hand, has dismissed the bottom-up economic model as tokenism, promising through his Inua Jamii Pesa Mfukoni plan to empower every poor household and the jobless, a 6,000 Kenya shilling stipend every month.
Mimi nimeshakuwa waziri mkuu wa Jamhuri ya Kenya. Mimi najua vile uchumi ya nchi hii inaendeshwa. Kwa hivyo mimi siwezi kuongea tu hivyo hivyo. Mimi najua pale pesa iko.
Maendeleo. The latest to join the fray is Machakos Governor Alfred Mutua, who has launched his presidential bid and made promises on economic empowerment. Mutua has promised every newlywed couple 500,000 shillings as a token for empowerment. For NDR Review, I'm Gladys Mongai.
To the corridors of justice, the year 2021 saw history made in Kenya after the first ever woman Chief Justice and President of the Supreme Court was sworn in the office. Chief Justice Martha Koome took the oath of office on May 21st, 2021 after rigorous search and interviews conducted following the retirement of Chief Justice David Kenani Maraga in January. Martha Koome, who was serving as a Court of Appeal judge, was picked by the Judicial Service Commission as the best candidate, beating a field of seasoned judges and jurists to head one of the arm of government.
I, Martha Karambu Koome, Chief Justice of the Republic of Kenya and President of the Supreme Court of Kenya, do swear in the name of the Almighty God to diligently serve the people and the Republic of Kenya.
Lady Justice Martha Karambu Koome, a renowned advocate and human rights defender with over 33 years of experience in the legal profession, beat all odds to become the first woman to serve as Chief Justice in Kenya. The 60-year-old jurist, during her swearing in at State House, pledged to actualize the judiciary transformation agenda, vowing to uphold the Constitution of Kenya.
Celebrate the confirmation of a new Chief Justice for the Republic of Kenya, but also for me a particularly singular honor to be the first president to swear in the first female Chief Justice of the Republic of Kenya.
Congratulating Koome upon her swearing in, President Uhuru Kenyatta said he was honored that the ascension of the first female head of the judiciary occurred during his tenure. Koome is Kenya's 15th Chief Justice. In June, President Uhuru Kenyatta gazetted the appointment of 34 judges and left out 6 nominees. President Kenyatta declined to appoint and swear in the judges on grounds that some had questionable integrity. The 6 nominees left out were Justice Joel Ngugi, George Odunga, Weldon Koril, Agre Muchelule, Registrar of the High Court Judy Omange, and Chief Magistrate Evans Kiago. In October 21st, a 3-judge bench comprising of Justice James Wakiaga, George Ndulu, and William Musyoka, sitting in Nairobi, ruled that should the president fail to honor the order, the 6th justice would be deemed formally appointed and the Chief Justice would organize their swearing in. Katiba Institute had moved to court to challenge the president's decision to omit the 6 judges from promotion. The matter is still pending in court. 2021 saw some landmark rulings and cases that shaped the country. Former Sports Cabinet Secretary Hassan Wario became the first Cabinet Secretary to be convicted and sentenced for corruption. Wario had been sentenced to a 6-year jail term with an option of a fine of 3.6 million shillings over his involvement in the 2016 Rio Olympics scandal. His co-accused Stephen Soi, who headed the Kenyan team to the Olympics at the time, was sentenced to a 10-year jail term or a fine of 103 million shillings over misuse of public funds. In her ruling, Chief Magistrate Elizabeth Juma said that issues arose in the manner which tickets to attend the Olympics were raised and quickly cancelled, distribution of allowances to delegates, and unutilized tickets. Other top cases included the Kenjokoma brothers' murder trial, where 2 brothers, Benson Jiro Ndwiga, aged 22, and Emmanuel Mutura Ndwiga, aged 19, died under mysterious circumstances on August 4, 2021, while in police custody. Their deaths caused a public outrage both in Embu and the country, with violent demonstrations and a social media hashtag Justice for Kenjokoma Brothers trended for days. The officers held in connection to the murders have since been charged. And before the dust could settle, another family from Kitengela was coming to terms with the deaths of their 2 sons, 30-year-old Frederick Mureithi Wanjiru and 25-year-old Victor Mwangi Wanjiru, who were killed by a mob in Kitengela over suspicion of being livestock thieves. The brothers were accompanied by 2 of their friends, Mike George, age 29, and Nicholas Musat, age 28, who were also murdered. One suspect, Benson Olemungai, has since been charged with the murders.
In the event Mr. George Mengi cannot effect to avail himself as ordered above, a warrant of arrest will be issued against him. The warrant of arrest shall be forthwith executed by the Inspector General of Police.
Another high-profile case of 2021 is the sentencing of the Director of Criminal Investigations, DCI, George Kinoti, to 4 months in prison for contempt of court after failing to surrender guns belonging to businessman cum politician Jimmy Wanjigi. The guns were seized from Wanjigi following a raid on his Muthaiga home in Nairobi in the year 2017. A 3-judge Court of Appeal bench has since suspended an arrest warrant against the DCI boss George Kinoti until April the 1st, 2022, pending the court's decision on the matter.
We now take our first break. Don't go, and where the Events 2021 continues in a bit.
What if it's God's will for me not to have a child?
This has got nothing to do with your ability to conceive.
I want you to know that your pain is my pain and your life my life.
Hey,
Angazia jua la pendo lako.
Will you hold me?
Oh, goodness. You're bringing shame upon yourself.
You brat. I don't understand what my daughter sees in you.
I've known a lot of girls. Never known someone like you. Are you ready?
Similarly, if you want your son's trust, you can't just swipe a card and buy some gloves.
I suppose I could learn a thing or two from you.
I don't know much about your past, but I can tell that you've been around.
One more day, I was born with a heart of a champion. Doesn't take a very long time to say thank you, Jaja, thank you, Jaja. When the music I play, sweet, sweet reggae music. I ain't taking no calls on my struggles in the rearview mirror. We always gotta sing together, play together. Girl, I'll be honest, gotta ride the weather, go whatever. Lift up your head and hold it up high. We know that we'll win the
You're watching Events 2021. Welcome back. Let's now continue with our coverage. The most outstanding highlight in the environment sector in the year 2021 was the conference of the parties COP26 United Nations Climate Change Conference, which was hosted by the United Kingdom and Italy on the 31st of October to 12th of November 2021 in the Scottish event Campus Sec in Glasgow, UK. President Uhuru Kenyatta, who attended the conference, urged countries to end carbon emissions and at the same time called for an increase in climate financing. Yusuf Farah with the details.
Thank you, President Kenyatta.
The highly anticipated United Nations Climate Change Conference COP26 was held in the Scottish city of Glasgow. The two-week global forum brought together delegates from around 200 countries. With global warming attributed to fossil fuel emissions caused by humans being on the rise, the world leaders resolved on ways to cut carbon emissions by the year 2030. The ministers, however, agreed to submit a stronger 2030 emissions reduction target during next year's meeting.
President of Kenya, Your Excellency, you have the floor.
President Uhuru Kenyatta, who spoke in the meeting, said Kenya will champion Africa's interest on climate change. President Kenyatta told world leaders to implement bold mitigation measures to avert a looming climate crisis. He at the same time urged countries to increase climate financing.
2 times in a row, developing countries have been promised $100 billion per year, but this has yet to be delivered. Today, once again, yet another pledge of 2023.
Kenya emits less than 1% of the global total. Africa, less than 5%. And yet, Kenya and Africa suffer or bears the brunt of climate change.
The same period saw another high-profile environmental global forum take place, the G20 Climate Summit 2021. The meeting that took place in Rome, Italy, agreed to pursue efforts to reduce global warming with meaningful and effective actions summit. But the agreements made in the summit made a few concrete commitments disappointing activists. UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson said leaders' promises without action were starting to sound hollow. The G20 group, which consists of 19 countries and the European Union, accounts for about 80% of the world's emissions. China, the world's biggest polluter, and Russia were not present at the summit and pushed to reach their net zero targets by 2060. Back home, the government was on vigorous campaigns to ensure the realization of the 10% forest cover by the year 2022. The Kenya Forest Service, which is tasked to conserve, protect and manage all public forests within the country's territory, engaged in a series of meetings with county officials. In a meeting with Elgeyo Marakwet, Governor Alex Tolgos, the service was assured of the devolved unit's continued cooperation in forest conservation.
We are working closely with KFS to ensure that we look into it, that we conserve our forests. We've developed a bill and policy to ensure that we do conservation in our community and also our farmland.
We are committed towards ensuring that we preserve the integrity of our forest blocks in Elgeyo Marakwet, including the Embowood forest. And we will use all means possible, both legal and in form of operation, to ensure that no land within Embowood and other forest blocks are encroached and currently being degraded.
We also require to engage with the forest adjacent communities. And in this case, we are able to send our team from the headquarters, working together with the team at the Conservancy and the ecosystem, to also create awareness among the forest adjacent communities in a way of helping them to form a CFA, a community forest association, that we can be able to engage with and who we can give legitimate access right into the forest, so that they are also able to benefit from grazing, from water resources, and from other activities.
The Ministry of Environment and Forestry Cabinet Secretary Keriako Tobiko says the government has realized a number of successes as it journeys towards the 10% forest cover goal by next year.
We involved everyone, okay, from the village, from schools, every person, non-state actors, everybody. And I can tell you, between then and now, tree planting has become ingrained in our Kenyan psyche. We led effort, working together with all sectors of society, civil society organization, corporate, schools, individuals, churches especially, and faith-led organizations started actually preaching. A number of them have established tree planting cultures and programs. Then we started what we call Adopt a Forest. So we have now individuals, organizations, including international organizations that adopt forest or parts of the forest and do the rehabilitation of the.
Climate change has also been a matter of great concern for the government. Failed rains and perennial droughts experienced in different parts of the country brought about the need for quick and tangible interventions.
The plan includes commitment to restore degraded water towers, accelerate forest restoration, and to increase our tree cover to at least 10% of our land area in order to promote a sustainable blue economy, but also promoting green manufacturing.
And the president directed us to ensure that all these strategic forest areas, water towers, are reclaimed.
28th of August this year saw illegal loggers and forest officers abetting the vice put on notice of dire consequences should they be caught. Kenya Forest Services Chief Conservator Julius Kamau said the service is sealing loopholes being explored by illegal loggers to escape arrest.
And we have been able to, in the last 2 years, to reclaim about 55,000 hectares which were previously illegally occupied. And we are happy that these areas now already are regenerating through natural regeneration. And where there are no seed banks, we are going in to be able to support regeneration by enrichment plan. There are few elements within ourselves who have decided to collude with the perpetrators of irregularities of this plantation material, especially plantation materials. We already have done quite serious investigations, and this far we have advanced, and within a very few days head will start rolling.
The Mao, since we reclaimed in 2019, it's been raining there throughout. It's been raining there throughout, and the Mara River that sustained Masai Mara and Serengeti. The same thing with Kirisia. Kirisia, the rivers that had dried up years ago came back to life.
Thanks to the different interventions the government has put in place, the country's water towers are slowly regaining their glory, and communities depending on the same are enjoying the fruits of the same. The wildlife that calls these water towers home are also benefiting from the interventions, but this brings forth an issue of concern, the human-wildlife conflict.
Environmental conservation, forest conservation, and wildlife and biodiversity conservation go hand in hand. And we work very closely with the Ministry of the State Department of Wildlife, Ministry of State Tourism and Wildlife. The new wildlife policy, of course, that was approved by Cabinet and initiated by the Ministry of Tourism and Wildlife, centralizes that, places the role of community-based conservation.
As we look forward to the new year, the ministry has announced a number of plans and events Kenya will be hosting as it places itself at the center of regional, continental and global environmental conservation efforts.
We have UNEP at 50. We have Stockholm plus 50. We have UNEA 5.2. We have the Oceans Conference. We have the ministerial meeting of all the environment ministers for Africa. And about 4 or 5 key global, regional and global environmental events. You'll be seeing a lot of us working closely with the Ministry of Devolution and the counties. And you'll see a lot of coordination between the national government, my ministry, Ministry of Environment, and counties and devolution to focus on dryland forestry.
The Cabinet Secretary concludes with a word of advice for environment enthusiasts on the importance of protecting our environment for the benefits of us and those that we hold dear.
Remember what Wangari Maathai said, and we didn't listen. You destroy nature. Nature is unforgiving. Nature will destroy you. We didn't listen to Wangari Maathai, and we are suffering the consequences. It's not too late. We can reverse this. We must reverse it for the benefit of posterity.
The environment is where we all are, where we all have a mutual interest. It is the one thing that all of us share. For this reason, it's important that each and every one of us plays their individual and collective responsibility to ensure that it is protected and preserved. Yusufa reporting for the NDA Review from the Mishuki Park, Nairobi County.
The year 2021 saw several arid and semi-arid counties face severe drought occasioned by depressed or failed rainfall, with over 2.5 million people affected. Subsequently, President Uhuru Kenyatta declared the drought a national disaster in September. And to mitigate the effects of the drought, the government came up with interventions such as livestock take-off program, animal feeds and water supply, as well as the cash transfer program to the affected.
The effects of failed or depressed rainfall in many parts of the country saw Kenya deal with one of the worst drought situations, with Asal County's worst hit. The situation forced the pastoralist communities that mostly inhabit Asal counties to trek for miles in search of water and pasture for their livestock. Some of the animals were so emaciated that they were left for the dead.
Angalia pandi na pandi kuna msoko kadhaa. Msonga ziko mingi ya mbuzi na ng'ombe, zingine zinakufia njiani wakati zinakuja kujaribu kutafuta maji.
Mfugo zinaisha kurudi kwao. Zile mbuzi ambazo zilitoka hapa asubuhi kwenda kutafuta malisho, kurudi ni saa 4 usiku. Na wakati ilitoka hapa pengine asubuhi zilikuwa 20. Hatujui kwamba 15 ndio itarudi ama ni 10 itarudi.
When you address the water, you are missing another component. You are missing pasture. You are missing veterinary services. So with lack of pasture, when animals are underfed, a lot of diseases creep in. And that's now what you are suffering from.
Those lucky had water brought to them through water tracking services. The drought situation affecting the livelihoods of thousands of families.
Mbaya mbovu. Hatujawahi kuona ukame kama hii Habaswein. Mimi niko karibu na miaka 52, sijawahi kuona ukame ile leo Habaswein iko naye, sijawahi kuona.
Ndio sisi maisha ya mbuzi na ng'ombe ndio tunachunga kabisa, lakini yetu ndio kidogo inadidimia. Ajili ya kwamba tunasema kwamba hizi wasikufe, lakini sisi wenyewe tuko tabani. Yuko mjamaa jana alitoka hapa saa 12, hata hatujui kama amefika, simu yake ni mteja na hatujapata habari yoyote mpaka sasa hivi.
You can see some mothers who have not cooked for 3 days. I saw a mother who had 4 children and they have not cooked for the last 5 days, starving. They're sleeping on their tummy. You cannot only take water as a meal.
In parts of Turkana County, pupils flocked schools not for education thirst, but because they were assured of a meal.
Nimekuwa routine kwa hii shule wakati wa kufungua. Watoto hawezi respond kama pengine chakula hakuna, kwa sababu most of them ku access chakula kwa maybe kwa boma ni ngumu, but once wakisikia chakula imeletwa kwa shule unapata wengi wao wanaingia.
The older ones were forced to either stay at home helping their parents or harvesting wild fruits.
Most of them come from families that hardly gets food. So back at home there's no food, and in school I don't have any food right now. So it becomes hard for them to come. So what they're doing, mostly I know some of them are in the bushes taking the wild berries.
On the 8th of September this year, following a meeting with leaders from the Asal counties, President Uhuru Kenyatta declared the drought a national disaster. The president instructing the National Treasury and the Ministry of Interior and Coordination of National Government to spearhead government efforts to assist affected households, including water and relief food distribution, as well as livestock uptake. So far, the government has adopted the more sustainable cash transfer program to help Kenyans deal with the effects of calamities such as drought.
The first cohort of 396 households identified for the emergency relief cash transfer program will each receive Kenya shillings 3,000, totaling to the payroll amount of 1.082, that is 1,082,088 shillings on a monthly basis until the rain situation improves.
The government is working to expand the livestock offtake program to help farmers reduce their losses occasioned by the drought.
But we had 450 million, which was given to Kenya Meat Commission. And to this is for them to offtake livestock, buy the livestock, process, and then later it can be used for as a relief to distribute to the areas which are affected by the drought.
Serikali itanunua ng'ombe alafu wanachinja, kisha baada kuchinja hiyo nyama inaenda wapi? Inarudi kwa jamii. Kuna wakulima kwa kweli wamepoteza ng'ombe wao, lakini sio kwamba mradi haukuwepo, ni kwamba hawakutaka kupeana ng'ombe wao kwa wakati unaofaa.
Other long-term government interventions include ensuring adequate water supply through sinking boreholes in ASAL counties through initiatives such as the Kenya Development Response to Displacement Impacts Projects Dr. Deep. The project is funded by the World Bank that targets the 3 counties of Wajir, Garissa and Turkana.
It is the communities themselves that identify what they want. And then they prioritize, because we tell them this financial year we are having this small amount of money. What will be your priority? And they will tell you, our priority is solar. Our priority is a borehole, water pan. Then we put that priority and finance it.
Further, the National Water Harvesting and Storage Authority targets to increase water storage by 148.6 million cubic meters by the year 2026 through investment in adequate water harvesting and storage facilities.
This plan will enable us to save property and lives in the country by constructing about 70 kilometers of dikes in the country and constructing 125 small dams and ponds.
The Kenya Meteorological Department projects that the drought situation in the country is likely to persist.
Whatever we are going through now, we had given a projection in March this year. So we don't expect to have good conditions up to the end of March. We expect maybe we have rains at the end of the March, and does not mean that once it rains we are off the hook. So it will take us up. This drought situation may take us up to around April, May next year.
I want to assure Kenyans that they should not panic, because as government we are fully in control of the situation.
According to the recent report by the National Drought Management Authority for the month of December, the counties of Garissa, Isiolo, Kilifi, Lamu, Mandera, Turkana, Kwale and Tharaka Nithi are at an alarm phase of drought, with another 9 counties of Embu, Laikipia, Kajiado, Makueni, Meru, Narok, Nyeri, Samburu and Taita Taveta being in the alert drought phase. 2 counties including Baringo and West Pokot are in the normal drought phase.
There's what we call food chain. First of all, the vegetation has to be exhausted. So once the vegetation is exhausted, the animals will have to lack the food that they are able to consume. Now, it's when the livestock dies, it's when a human being will lack food. But you can see most of these communities, they still have animals. So nobody can allow himself to die when the animals are still alive. So I can confirm, and you can take it to whichever bank you think about, that we've not had any Kenyan who has lost life as a result of drought.
I want to assure Kenyans that they should not panic, because as government we are fully in control of the situation.
Nancy Okware, NDR Review.
To security update, Laikipia County made headlines in the 2021 calendar but for all wrong reasons. Insecurity, despite the government deploying heavy security apparatus to the ground, lives and property of unknown value were lost in the hands of the daring bandits, especially areas near the Laikipia Nature Conservancy. Meanwhile, Kenyans were puzzled on the 14th of November 2021 after 3 terror suspects escaped from the community maximum prison, a well-guarded facility. Although the escapees were later rearrested, the incident left or resulted to the sacking of Commissioner General of Kenya Prisons Service Wycliffe Ogalo. These are some of the security incidents witnessed in the year 2021, as reported by Timothy Kipnus.
The year 2021 saw many families in Olmoran, Laikipia County, spent night in the cold after armed bandits invaded the area, leaving a trail of destruction.
Mambo yanaendelea pande hii inatakana hata uchunguzi zaidi. Ni nini kinaendelea pande ya Laikipia? Nini inapangwa? Na kuna uwezekano kwamba haya pia yanaendelea kwenda sehemu zingine. Na ndivyo tumesema kama serikali sasa mahali imefika, tumechora mstari katika mchanga kwamba sasa hatuwezi kupita hapo tena. Tukipita hapo tena, Kenya inaanza kuwa banana republic. We cannot agree.
The criminals torched houses and left several people dead, among them 3 police officers. The rampant insecurity situation that lasted for almost 3 months led to the hundreds of residents fleeing the area, particularly Matwiku, Wangwasi and Olmaran, despite police operations.
Wakati pia una upgrade survey into a police station, tunaomba survey bila gari itakuwa ngumu sana kuoperate.
Kazi yako ya kwanza wewe my friend na huyu ni kuhakikisha kwamba wale ambao nyumba zao zilichomeka wamesaidiwa kuzijenga na kurudi makwao.
Rift Valley Regional Commissioner George Natembea, however, insisted that the government security apparatus were in control.
Alafu naona zile bunduki wanatumia, wako na bunduki mzito inaitwa M16. Na hizi bunduki nyingi zinakuja na wale soldiers wale wazungu wanafanya practice kule. How they find their way via kwa mikono ya raia inakuwa ni ngumu, hatuwezi kuelewa. Maana na bunduki tuko nazo ni AK47, G3 na zile zingine. Lakini M16 is not among the police issue. So inatoka wapi bunduki?
The government attributing the state of lawlessness in the region to the move by herders to invade private ranches in search of pasture for their livestock.
We know this thing, tunajua hii maneno. Tunajua yale mnazungumza na vile mnayazungumza. Lakini you are not going to hurt innocent people. Eti usumbue watu wetu kwa sababu ya mambo yako unataka kufanya wewe mwenyewe. Tiu sasa unataka kusongesha watu hivi, uende ufanye hivi, uchome wale wengine na mambo kama hayo. We will act firmly. Hii kitu we have suffered before as a country kutokana na mambo kama haya. Mambo ilifanyika nchi 2007 ya mchezo kama huu, unaanza namna hii kusumbua watu. Alafu watu wanaanza kuaibishwa kukaa kama IDPs in their country. Alafu sasa kila siku ni hiyo kelele tu inasumbua watu wetu. It's very shameful.
The skirmishes witnessed in Laikipia saw a number of leaders who were accused of allegedly inciting residents to violence, including Tiati Member of Parliament William Kamket arrested.
So today we have arrested the Member of Parliament for Tiati, where the herders come from. Those herders are people who have been employed to take care of animals for prominent people, the MP included, and we are not at that.
Na wewe ukijifanya namna hiyo, safari hii we are not going to pembelezana na mtu hapa. Tutakunyorosha. I mean, no, stop these jokes. Hii mambo ya kucheza na wananchi muache. Ti wewe unajifanya ni mtu wa siasa, unajua tutakutandika.
The fighting over grazing in the region has been running for years, but is now escalating even as more herders arrive with thousands of livestock.
Currently we are undertaking an operation in Laikipia aimed at flashing out illegal herders who have invaded ranches in Laikipia. And mostly the herders are from Baringo County.
Pastoralists account for more than 90% of Laikipia's residents. Their population and livestock numbers are growing rapidly. This has placed far more pressure on the available land, a mixture of arid and semi-arid land used by ranchers, horticulturalists and wild conservationists and pastoralists. The county of Elgeyo Marakwet is no exception. The county has its fair share of insecurity cases. Banditry attacks were the order of the day. A burial for 4 victims killed in Kapkobil area in Elgeyo Marakwet East by bandits was a testimony of the state of insecurity here. The spike of insecurity in the area interrupted learning, as pupils could not go to school for fear of their lives.
This is very painful, extremely painful. Jana niliongea na waziri wa kule na interior Matiang'i, kwa sababu tulikuja na yeye hapa tot na akakuja ku make promises, tukapewa special DC. Hiyo special DC amekuja hapa kukuja tukukaa kama raia mwingine, kwa sababu if there is no kama hakuna askari wamepewa na hakuna ile enforcement ile waziri alisema last time, special DC tu atakuwa kama mimi na wewe.
14th of November 2021 will also be forever remembered by many Kenyans after 3 terror suspects escaped from the Kamiti Maximum Prison, a well-guarded facility.
No. Here.
The escape led to the dismissal of Commissioner General of Kenya Prison Service Wycliffe Ogalo. He was replaced by retired Brigadier John Kibaso Warioba.
What happened here on Monday was a very rude awakening that there are certain lapses that we need to deal with. We have spent the last 3 days working on, how to deal with some of those challenges. And I pray to God that we never get here as a country, because the level of anxiety the country got into was unnecessary because of the lapses that were here. But now that we have gotten them, and we have officers we suspect failed in their duty to do this, we will ensure that the law takes its course and we bring all those who are involved to justice. The mistakes that were committed here on Monday are unforgivable. I mean, it was a very frightening, horrific actually, to say the truth, dereliction of duty on the part of some of us.
The escape led to police placing a 60 million shillings bounty on the suspects. The 3 suspects, Mohammed Ali Abikar, Musharraf Abdallah and Joseph Juma Odhiambo, were later arrested by Anti-Terrorism Police Unit in Kitui.
I'd like to confirm to Kenyans, our manhunt, we were able to get the 3 inmates within the border of Tana River and Mwingi. They were deep in the bush. Our assessment, these people were moving towards Garissa and maybe finally to cross to Somalia.
Police say Musharraf Abdallah was arrested on 30th September 2012 over his participation in a full terrorist attack targeting parliament buildings. Mohammed Ali Abikar was arrested following his involvement in the Garissa University attack on 2nd April 2015, while Joseph Juma Odhiambo was arrested on 21st November 2029 at Bulahawa in Somalia while attempting to enlist with the Al-Shabaab.
And the bicameral Parliament of Kenya considered at least 38 bills on the floor of both houses in the year 2021. Some of the bills include the Political Parties Amendment Bill 2021, the Election Campaign Financing Amendment Bill 2021, the Finance Bill 2021, and the Division of Revenue Bill, among others. The Parties Amendment Bill proposes that parties make public their source of funds. It also proposes that special interest groups allocated 15% of the political parties fund. The Parliament of Kenya also in the year 2021 hosted Tanzania's President Samia Suluhu Hassan in a joint parliament session during her maiden visit to the country. And here are some of the highlights in Parliament's 5th session in the year that was.
The year 2021 is one that saw Parliament reconvene twice from the annual long recess for 2 special sittings to discuss and conclude on matters of national concern, from bills to motions, petitions and reports, among other businesses that were still pending by the end of the 5th session.
Let's pray.
The Political Parties Amendment Bill 2021, which seeks to amend the Political Parties Act 2011, was read for the first time before the floor of the National Assembly on the 2nd of December. Even though it came at the tail end of the legislative calendar, the essence of Political Parties Amendment Bill was not only of great interest, but also prompted the House to reconvene for special sittings on the 21st, 22nd and 29th December. It ought to be concluded within 6 months to the August elections.
Honorable Chair, I stand to oppose this amendment by the Honorable Alice Wahome.
Among its proposals are that a coalition political party must be registered by the registrar as a political party and submit its political agreement at least 6 months before a general election. The bill also addresses rebellion in parties by proposing tough sanctions against members who promote the ideologies of another political party. It also focuses on the controversy surrounding political party funds by proposing a formula of 70% to political parties, 15% to special interest groups, and 10% to representatives. But the changes proposed and the timing of the bill elicited varied reactions, with aspersions cast on its objective.
Honorable Speaker, my main issue is that this bill has hurriedly been brought, and even members being called away from their vacation to come and contribute. To me, I think the issue of having free and fair elections, if this House is not careful, will be a mirage.
This bill is completely untimely, and it is intended to disrupt smooth nominations, particularly in some of the proposals that it is coming up with. Mr. Speaker, the speed in which, even from the Speaker's seat, that this bill is being processed, Mr. Speaker, completely ignoring procedural issues.
Honorable members, I wish to ask that you look at this bill and look at it from a positive perspective in terms of how it enriches democracy. And if you find that there are some areas that require amendments, let us reason together.
And when members began ventilating on it, their political inclinations split the House right in the middle, derailing the process.
I think we are for about 15 minutes.
The negative part of this bill, which you are proposing amendments, Mr. Speaker, in the committee of the whole House, is to force political parties that the coalition must be done at least 6 months to general election. That want to amend, Mr. Speaker, so that you can allow coalitions as late as possible in line with the elections calendar, Mr. Speaker.
The committee of the whole House stage on the bill is automatically deferred to allow harmonization of the multiple amendments proposed to the bill. Subsequently, today's afternoon sitting shall be suspended and shall therefore not take place. Order, honorable members, order.
We have a properly constituted special sitting this afternoon, the 22nd of December 2021. It is only by leave of this House that a special sitting can be called off, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, therefore I'm asking you to reconsider your ruling.
And Honorable Speaker, Honorable Chair, you can rise, you can shout.
Order, members, order.
And members,
Order, members.
I've done it before.
Order. Honorable members, just hold. Everybody go back. Go back. Go back. The member for Alda, you are out of order. Go back to your...
And we cannot vote when we don't have a voting register. We have to know how many of us are here so that we know who have voted. Because
Honorable Speaker, we cannot have 286 members inside these chambers, Honorable Speaker. It is not even enough for all of us, Honorable Speaker. I'm saying the voting register must be availed before any further voting.
I agree that all of us require very transparent voting process. But here you do notice that the first time that the Duale side voted and they lost, they won, they didn't raise this issue. They are now raising the issue because they have lost.
The bill is expected to be passed before February 2022. The Division of Revenue Bill 2021, signed into law in April 2021, saw Parliament remove grants from the bill, thereby reducing the revenue share for the devolved units to 370 billion shillings. The two houses concurred that the grants cannot be included in the bill, setting revenue share between the two levels of government.
The amounts that now will be included is the national shareable revenue at the national level, which is 1.3 trillion. And then, of course, we will have the equalization fund of 6.8 billion. And also the county equitable share of 370 billion.
The signing into law of the bill also paved way for an increment of at least 50 billion shillings to county governments in improved shareable allocation. The controversial third basis county sharing formula was finally adopted after 10 sittings.
The draft election campaign financing regulations submitted to the National Assembly by the Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission on 5th of August 2021.
The election campaign financing regulation saw parliamentarians reject a move by the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission to impose spending caps on campaigns for various elective seats.
I am obliged that I support the report of the committee to annul in its entirety the contribution, the spending limits for political parties and candidates for the purpose of the 2022 general election, and reject the draft election campaign financing regulations.
Before tabling the regulations in the House as required so they can be passed, Mr. Speaker, IEBC published those amounts, those figures in the Kenya Gazette, Mr. Speaker. They publicized. What they are trying to do is to, the way Honorable Duale has said, to put the horse before the cart, or the cart before the horse, Mr. Speaker. And they were doing that deliberately to incite Kenyans that we have already given the ceilings. What ceilings? They are giving a presidential candidate to spend 4 billion. Where are we going to? Where is the president going to get 4 billion, Mr. Speaker?
Normally, if regulations are passed at the committee level, we do not bring them to the House. In fact, you do not even need to bring them to the House before publishing. But these ones, Mr. Speaker, by their very unique nature, they have to be brought to the House before publishing. So, Mr. Speaker, even if we tried to really remedy these regulations, they were faulty ab initio, there was no way we could have been able to revive them.
The year 2021 also saw Parliament host Tanzanian President Samia Suluhu Hassan in a joint sitting during her maiden visit to the country.
Busara inaelekeza kuwa ukiwa mpangaji mpya kwenye eneo lazima ujitambulishe kwa majirani. Nami kwa sababu ni mpangaji mpya kwenye hizo nafasi, nimeonelea nije kwa majirani kujitambulisha, na nimeanza na jirani wa Kenya ambaye ni jirani ndugu.
She became the second president to address the Kenyan parliament after retired President Jakaya Kikwete's address to the 11th parliament in 2015. On 30th November 2021, during his State of the Nation address in Parliament, President Uhuru Kenyatta directed Parliament to adjust its calendar to conclude critical legislative proposals emanating from the executive, which are still pending in Parliament, such as the Huduma Bill, which has only gone through first reading at the National Assembly. Kamche Menza for the India Review.
Elsewhere, delayed disbursement of county funds by National Treasury was perhaps the sticking point of devolution in 2021. In most instances, governors warned that counties were grinding to a halt and were almost at ground zero, with coffer running dry as they could not meet their obligation. But despite the delay in funds, Nairobi City too in 2021 got a new governor, Anne Kananu, stepping into the shoe of Mike Mbuvi Sonko, whose legal battle to reclaim his seat fell flat. Safina Cheng looks at how devolution fared in its 8th year.
The concept of devolution formed a key pillar of the Kenya's 2010 constitution, seeking to bring governance closer to the people by making county governments the center of political power, as well as decentralizing economic resources to Kenyans at the grassroots. 8 years since the implementation of this decentralized system of government, has it worked? Dr. Kenneth Ombogi is a governance expert and senior lecturer at the University of Nairobi. He argues that devolution has presented a major transformation of the country, bringing robust grassroots development.
There were areas that, did not see any major development in the provision of healthcare and many of those social services. But thanks to devolution, you begin to have a feeling that something is happening. The local level involvement in making certain decisions that touch on local level development is happening.
The year 2021, however, saw the devolved units still grapple with fundamental challenges, including irregular or delayed disbursement of devolved funds from the National Exchequer, inadequate financial resources, corruption, stalled projects, huge pending bills, bloated workforce, skyrocketing debt, challenges that risk negating the progress made so far.
When it comes to issues of political governance, we exported the very bad habits that we see at the national level to the local level. When we talk about ethnicity at the national level as a key determinant of our politics, in the local levels you find clanism and some elements of ethnicity in much more cosmopolitan counties. So, in other words, what we have at the county level is actually a microcosm of the politics that we have at the national level.
While appreciating the fact that delayed disbursement and underfunding of counties presented a major problem, he points out the issues of misallocation and mismanaging of the scarce resources.
In the side of development and the utilization of funds that are devolved to the counties is probably the same thing. To put it in a much more popular way, it appears to me that the very interesting habits that inform government expenditure at the national level, characterized with rampant corruption as it were actually exported down to the counties.
Dr. Ombogi also believes that the wanton corruption experienced at the devolved units must be urgently tamed.
What is required to really deal with what one could call the cancer of corruption at the county level, just like at the national government, is to provide the latitude for independent constitutional bodies that are meant to actually fight and prevent corruption to function without any undue interference from any quarters. I have in mind the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, which I know that has established offices within the county headquarters around the country. I have in mind the judiciary. I have in mind the investigative agencies of the government, the CID and the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions.
The year 2021 also saw the country intensify its war against the deadly COVID-19, which proved not only to be a health but an economic crisis. With many people losing their jobs and businesses shutting down, many counties reported low revenue collection, paralyzing service delivery. And even with the county's COVID-19 socio-economic re-engineering recovery strategy, which was launched in 2020 in place, the implementation faced a myriad of challenges.
Tupongeze kazi nzuri iliyofanywa na magavana wetu.
With health being a devolved function, these financial hitches thwarted the efforts put in place by the county governments in fighting COVID-19 that was fast spreading in the community. These were the scenes witnessed early this year. Scenes that almost put to a standstill the health sector at a time when the country was dealing with an invisible enemy, COVID-19. Health workers went on strike to demand personal protective equipment and medical insurance as the disease took a toll on them.
Tulikuwa na watu wengi ambao wanafanya kazi hawalipwi. Mishahara inacheleweshwa hata miezi 3. Wengine walifukuzwa kazi kama wengine walikuwa wamefukuzwa kule Kisii na wengine kule Kirinyaga. Haya ni mambo ambayo tulikuwa tunaongelea, na pia tulikuwa tunajinunulia vifaa vya kujikinga, lakini pia tupewi pesa na serikali.
And as the curtain closes on the year 2021, stakeholders still believe that more needs to be done to ensure accessibility and affordability of quality healthcare for all.
15% ya bajeti yao mzima ikawekea afya. Ndio ukiwekea zile pesa, kwa sababu pesa ni kila kitu. Utaweza kuajiri wahudumu wa afya wa kutosha, utaweza kununua vifaa vya kutosha na vya kisasa, utaweza kutengeneza hospitali mingi kuhakikisha kila mtu ako karibu na pahali hospitali yake ipo, na utaweza pia kuhakikisha unatoa mafunzo ya hali ya juu na hata ile ya specialist, ndio kusikue hata na watu wanatoka nchini wanaenda kwingine kutibiwa kama vile tunaona watu wakienda India.
The 7th Annual Devolution Conference, which was initially scheduled to be held from the 23rd to 26th of August 2021, was pushed forward to November 23rd to 26th, 2021. The forum, which was hosted in Wote, Makueni County, under the theme Multi-Level Governance for Climate Action, saw the county bosses and other stakeholders commit to support grassroots initiatives for combating climate change. In his speech, which he delivered virtually, President Uhuru Kenyatta affirmed Kenya's commitment to reduce the negative impact of climate change.
I note with much appreciation that 33 county governments have developed county-specific laws on climate change, and that a few of them are providing strong leadership on this agenda.
At least finally, we had a chance where the lowest governance structure in our country, which are counties, talking about this important subject of climate change. And it is critical that it came soon after what happened in Glasgow, when the world was really focusing and talking about the direction we are taking as humanity towards actually preventing what is likely to be a disaster in the waiting.
The annual event will from next year be held once every 2 years instead of yearly, as has been the case for the last 6 years, in what the Council of Governors says is meant to allow governors to fully implement resolutions. This was the last devolution conference under President Uhuru Kenyatta's administration and the current second-term governors. So what impact will this have on the implementation of the resolutions?
This can be good or bad for counties, because some governors will want to micromanage the situation to determine who succeeds them, so that he can cover a few things that they did which they may not want anybody to know. That would be tragic if it is happening. But I'm sure, given who we are, it could be happening. Secondly, Some governors, when you look at them, are angling to become very strong power brokers and to determine the direction, not just county politics, but national politics, in a way of trying to see what is there next for them.
2021 also saw Nairobi County get a new sheriff.
I, Karan, do swear that I shall always truly and diligently serve the people of the Republic of Kenya in the office of the Governor of Nairobi City County.
Anne Kananu was sworn in to replace Mike Mbuvi Sonko. Kananu too facing turbulence on her first days in office. Her attempts to appoint a deputy blocked by the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission on integrity grounds. And as the country edges closer to the 2022 general election, and a majority of the second-term governors weighing their options, we can only hope that the transition will not present yet another quagmire for the devolved units. For the 2021 NDA review, I am Safin Aching Ouma.
We take our second commercial break here at Events 2021. Don't go too far. We still have plenty more coming up shortly. Stay with us.
I'm sorry, Sir Damian. I didn't expect you to be here. What in the world are you doing down here? But what are you doing with that boy?
Nothing, we're just friends.
Well, I don't like the idea that you're getting along with him, or his brother, or anyone from their family.
Every day that passes, I'm more and more convinced you're a mean person.
Oh, is that what you think?
Only thing you know and do is treating people around you as if they were trash. The only thing I want to do now is to end my marriage once and for all. I've been dying to be free from his arms for years because I'm so fed up. Yes, Lucy, I understand.
Lying heart.
Fue sembrando el veneno y la ambición.